What's up, everybody? Today we have Peter Curto from Supra Soccer Agency. You might even recognize him from the Italian Football TV podcast. Peter, what's going on? How you doing?
How's it going, Wayne? Everything is great. How's everything?
It's very good, and I have been wanting to interview you for a while because I feel that some people in football, you got to dig a little deeper to get their story and learn who they are. And one notable thing that's happened in your world recently is the signing of Giuseppe Rossi to SPAL in Italian Serie B. So we're going to be talking about that, but I also want to ask you some pointed questions about the life of an agent and just how it becomes, how you get started, who influences you, what makes you tick, like what is behind Peter and what's even next for you. But we're also going to be talking a little bit about, of course, that with Giuseppe Rossi and just a little bit more about like, what is behind you, what is that driving force, and what you can show on to people who might want to get started in this industry. So, Peter, the first thing I want to ask you is a little bit about Supra themselves. Now, we have talked, you and I,
Sure.
in the past about them being a full service soccer agency. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, I mean we're a boutique agency, so it's just my partner and I that operate and work on our different clients, whether they be in the United States or elsewhere in the world, in Europe particularly. We handle from the management of their careers to social media to the marketing, really going in depth. Taking a family approach to a lot of our players' lives, and aside from just their career playing wise, even considering their post career or life outside of the football world. Because in the end, we think of these players as being our idols, but they're human like every one of us. So they have a mother, father, family at home, the same issues that somebody like yourself or myself might have on a personal level, they could have the same thing. So it's so important that we act as a support for them. And, aside from just being an agent or a manager, we have like a brother relationship with our players. That's how we look at it.
That's awesome. So you would
Yeah.
say it's less of this like, that there's the guy who's wearing the suit and tie, and then you have your player or your client. Instead, you're saying it's actually you're a little bit more involved, at least emotionally, perhaps even socially, in getting them out of I don't want to say in a protective way, but more of a fraternal style. Would you agree with that?
No, exactly how you put it. I mean, listen, there's a lot of different agencies out there. So everyone has their way of doing things. But our way, what we've made it a point in how we represent our players, it's always the transparency and having that relationship. Obviously we're Italian. I know that you cover a lot of the Italian football and Serie A, Roma as well. So we have a certain cultural upbringing, and family and friendships are very important. So we want to also be able to express that or share that with our players. And it might not be for everyone, but for the most part, we have a special relationship with our players. And as young agents in this world, we're also looking to go side by side with our players. A lot of our guys are younger, and we wanna be with them for a long time and grow together.
That's awesome. So you could even say that you're going to establish this long-term relationship with them by being there for them, from the get-go, supporting them, not just, the guy on the pitch, the idol, like you said, the people that we look up to, but the person themselves. And, I'm going to ask you something about media later, but this is, I don't think something that's so known behind the scenes when it comes to soccer, football, whatever type of sport agency is actually the agent has more to do than just the numbers, the figures, and that you are a caretaker is not the right word, but I use that word fraternal again, almost like a big brother, and you have to watch out for their best
Mm-hmm.
interests, right? Um,
100%. I mean, from calls in the middle of the night to messages and trying to understand, how we can help, girlfriend problems, anything to that effect. That's also part of it. It's like having that support, I guess, or as you said, a fraternal relationship.
is it fair to say that being a football agent is not a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type job?
Easily not. It's a 24/7 job. So you're nonstop. Luckily, I have my partner that, we're able to not necessarily split time, but we're always helping each other. So we have that little, I guess, break in a sense, but it's a 24/7 job. You're constantly working. Your mind also is always thinking about the next steps, because you have to be thinking ahead of everyone else. You have to know already what the plan could be or should be, and you can't wait. You don't wait for a player to score 10 goals in the end of the season to say, okay, now we're ready to move. Like, that's already something that you're preparing. Uh, you know, Literally, like, maybe the fifth to 10th game into the season.
And being an international agent, where are you based out of? And I'm going to ask you a follow up question to that. But how does somebody who's where you're based out of get involved on the international level?
Yeah, so we're based out of New York. Our office is in Midtown. We're all over. We're traveling nonstop within the U.S., within Europe. A lot of times, how I would, I guess, present the agency world is similar to a certain extent to real estate, where a lot of these agents are able to co-broke on different players or different transactions, and that's how we've been able to also make a name for ourselves, where we've been able to work with many top agents within Europe and within Italy specifically, where we're able to represent their players here in the United States in a different market, where we have the connections to the different teams or sporting directors that potentially an Italian agent might have, but might not have a close relationship with any of these people.
I see. And guys, if you couldn't tell, aside from this being Peter's job, he's obviously extremely passionate about what he does. But Peter, how did you know you wanted to be an agent? And then how did you get started?
Yeah, no, no. Well, you said it best. I think that to be a soccer agent, you have to be one or two things: crazy or passionate. Those are the only two ways to actually do it, because it's a lot of work where you're just nonstop, and either you love it, or you're not going to be able to continue doing it. So how I got started, I guess, was, how can I say? So I've always had a dream of playing football, playing soccer professionally. I think a lot of players, or people that have grown up to love the sport, always want to be the athlete, want to be the people to have an important role in that. But what really sparked me is, once I realized, okay, I'm probably not going to go professional. What's the next thing that's going to be as close as playing or being within the sport? And then obviously the next thing was, okay, I want to be an agent. Now, the steps that I took to become an agent, could vary from a person to another. But I was in a business program with an undergraduate business and finance, and then I ended up going to law school, because I saw a lot of top agents were lawyers. So you're going to have an understanding of contracts, you're going to have an understanding of business management, and overall intellectual property. There's so many different things that you have to really have a grasp on, and that was very important for me to be able to succeed in representing and best representing my players. I really, how I got into the agency world after I graduated was actually working with, like, a local soccer team that were bringing a U20 team from New York to play in the Viareggio Cup. And little by little, by being active within the community and within that soccer team, eventually became the general manager, where, at that point, similar to how a sporting director will have the keys to a team, I was able to craft the team, go out and scout. Mario, my partner, was also my team scout. So we were able to get these players and get uh, a lot of amateur players, let's say, guys that were in high school, college, to go for this select team, um, and go compete against, Milan, Inter. We actually played versus Nordsjælland, which the Nordsjælland is a team from Denmark, and they had 5 U19 international players, where I had a bunch of amateur players from New York City or New Jersey, tri-state area. and we actually won. We won 2-1. So I remember
That's
that
sick.
moment because, for a lot of these kids, it's the first time even going to Italy, first time even experiencing a tournament of this magnitude. For many people that don't know, Viareggio Cup, historically one of the best tournaments on the international level for that age category. And right away, right after the game, I had the president of the tournament give me a call, say, "Congratulations, we heard you won. It's remarkable," so on and so forth. So that was my first, I guess, taste of professional soccer, or being able to face the teams of Milan, uh, Inter. We also versed Crotone, Norgeland, so all these different teams. And there was this gala event, to kind of as an opening ceremony, and all the who's who were there, the sporting directors. So I was there just networking, connecting with the first person I met actually was Perinetti, Giorgio Perinetti, who was a historic sporting director, ex Inter, I'm sorry, Juventus, Napoli. Right now, he's the current sporting director in Serie B for Brescia. Um, Also with Palermo, he was a sporting director that brought in a lot of top talent. So one of the old foxes, I guess, of Serie A and of Italy, and so on and so forth. Met different people, and that's really how an agent is going to work, is based on his network.
And putting yourself out there, right? This isn't for someone who's just wants to stay home. You have to go out and get this. A lot of this in this industry.
Oh yeah. Oh, you can't sit around and wait. You have to make calls. It's cold calling, reaching out via email, going to events, going to meet people in person. Having know-how and understanding of what you need to be able to present, and doing it in a professional manner.
Along the way, there must have been times where you wonder, as anybody natural who's doing something difficult, when you do something hard, whether that's law school, becoming an agent, or anything massive in life, at times you wonder, am I on the right path? And often you'll look back to what motivated you. What pushed you? What is that burning energy, that desire inside you? So I want to ask you, was there somebody in your life, perhaps something that pushed you, inspired, or pushed you on your path?
Um, it was kind of, I think it's just not necessarily that it was innate, but I feel that my ideas obviously was, I want to be in sports. How can I get into sports? And I felt that I can use a legal background to kind of make my parents happy, I guess, that I went to law school, and at the same time use it for me in a profession within sports, within soccer specifically, football specifically. Then obviously, as you grow up, maybe someone that I would look up to was the late Mino Raiola, right? How he was able to have that personality, a little bit of ego, I guess, and just being able to attract the top players, and making sure that when it's time for him to get the deal done, he did it, and he was beloved by his players. So, like, a lot of times, you're a Roma fan, so you talk about Mourinho. uh, what you see on TV is not necessarily, what the person is in real life, or even rather that, it's all an alter ego, in a sense. Like, you're creating this storyline that you want the journalist to know, so that way, you're able to create your reality and the reality for your teams. But then, as a person, Mourinho, there's a lot of players that absolutely love him, and the same thing goes with Mino Raiola. I don't think the players that were with him, when he passed away, a lot of them were very upset about it. So I guess, talking about agents, Mino Raiola obviously for me was top, and the fact that he kind of had similar background as myself, as an Italian American, even, because he was, from Holland. His parents were Italian, from um, Salerno area, Campania area, and he had an immigrant background as well. So there's something that we can kind of connect with in that. And he didn't speak perfect Italian. Like I speak uh, Italian abbastanza bene, like enough, and pretty fluent. But at the same time, if I make a mistake, I just look at Mino and how he didn't care, or he would say like, "This is how I am. As long as you understand what I'm saying, then that's how we're gonna be able to make it happen."
And that's the law. And by the way, Peter is lying. He speaks impeccable Italian. So I was with him yesterday,
We went for
and
we went for coffee in Brooklyn. It used to be very Italian neighborhood, but there is this one spot left, Villa Bate, a little shout out. But it's within the area, you'll still see. We were talking how great it is to be able to speak Italian at the coffee shop, I guess, or the bar, as we would say in Italy, and sip on cappuccino and talk about football, talk about Italy, and then just be able to live happily ever after, as they would say.
yeah, that is happiness. It really is. And like I feel when I look at people, and like mental health is such a prominent topic right now, and it's less stigmatized than ever.
Mhm.
And one thing I wonder is, do people have that? Because I think it's something so simple, Peter. But at the same time, being able to like one, if you go to your soccer game afterwards, whatever, you meet up there, you see people you recognize, familiar faces, you have a little chat, a little coffee, whatever, a pastry, whether it's cannolo or whatever. And it's like, that is the simplicity of life, which is not so simple that almost like, you could say common sense is not so common in a way like that, though that little thing, which seems so small and perhaps regular is in fact not. And it really makes a difference. And it's like something that you look forward to, even if it is, so regular, quote unquote.
Yeah, well, you said it best. And listen, that even football, soccer for us, it's all based on emotions, and food in the same way. How it reminds you of something, or you can be transported to a place in Rome or a place in Naples, where you're sipping on the coffee the same way, or you're having a discussion the way that you remembered it, 10 years from ago, or whatever the case might be. And football does the same exact thing. Like it transports you to when you were a kid, or memories, my memories with my grandfather, who I was very close with. And for us, Americans here, we used to wake up early in the morning to watch the game, and we were together. And our memories are having coffee, and even at 15 years old, 13 years old, having coffee with my grandfather watching Serie A.
Yeah.
So, that's so important to be able to have that opportunity to still be able to share experiences with another person, and especially when it's over good food or good wine. That's that's always fun.
Absolutely, man. And as we're thinking about that, there must be people out there who are wondering, and people who want, especially if you're watching this episode, like people who've thought about it and considered it. They want to be a sports agent. They don't know where to get started. What is the one piece of advice you would give someone who's about to put their first foot forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's always about how you present yourself, and going out there and reaching out to people. Because you know what I realize, a lot of successful people want to be able to help, right? They want to extend the arm. But if you don't ask, they're busy. They're not going to have the time to go looking for you. They need somebody. And then you have to be persistent. You want something, you have to go for it, and you have to keep on knocking on doors. Don't be discouraged if somebody doesn't answer you. Don't be discouraged if you don't get the answer that you want, right? You have to be able to keep on going. And for any person in whatever career, right? You have to know your shit. I don't know if you can curse on this thing, but you have to know what you're talking about. You have to be the expert. So like you have to do your research. You have to know statistics, players, different leagues. Like you have to live it, eat it, breathe it, everything. It's so important. So like this is a job, as you said before, it's not a 9 to 5 job. Like you have to be passionate about this. This has to be something that's in you, and you can never, it's never going to go away with a little discouragement. Like you have to fully believe it.
Yeah, it makes total sense, man. I see. people who ask too about like breaking into the writing or whatever sports world, and it's not a 50% thing. And I've heard this before, and I really believe it. If you have a plan B, just go do the plan B. Don't even get started on the plan A, because perhaps that could
Yeah.
be what ends up holding you back. You can't have one foot here and one foot elsewhere. You got to have both feet in the water.
I would also add something. Don't be afraid to work for free, because you're gonna gain experience, and believe it or not, if you do the right job, people are gonna notice you. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people say, "Oh, I'm not getting paid. Oh, this is not for me." Whatever the case might be. If you believe in something, you go for it, and that's it. There's no ifs, And even if you get $0 from it, what can you get out of it? What experience can you get out of it? That's so important. Like even when I was working with the soccer team that we brought the team to Viareggio, like I didn't get paid for that. I
Yeah,
got the experience and I got the ability to build, and that's the most important thing.
life skills.
Um, yeah, 100%. And funny enough, I had a friend that was writing for Bleacher Report became before it became a big thing. And then he kind of just gave up on it, or not that he gave up on it, but just he felt as if it was just something that's just more of a part-time gig. And then
Yeah.
Bleacher Report became what it is, and obviously with TNT and so on. So it's like, who knows if he would have stayed on and he would have been maybe the beat writer for I don't know, for MLS or for soccer.
Mm-hmm. There was a time, and you're making me think, maybe about 5 years ago, I had been volunteering with Roma for about 3 seasons at that point. And I was like, you know what? I'm not getting jerseys from them, whatever, whatever small minded thing I was worrying about. But what I gained from volunteering throughout all these years has been fundamental. Like I've been able to interview fans from this, or write player columns, or be on the front page of their Twitter. So there's so many intangible aspects, like you said, that don't be afraid just because you're not getting paid. Look at the big picture. What are you gaining from this? Because that's essentially what you get are these life skills which help you build upon and make you a complete character in whatever industry that you're trying to get into or working already in.
100%, 100%. And it's got to always build for what you want out of a career, out of your objective, right? And then listen, it doesn't mean that you have to be somewhere forever. There's going to come to a point where you're going to say, okay, maybe I need to stop or I need to quit. But in the end, you have to always look at how it can help me grow and how I can better myself. Every day, you want to always better yourself. Uh, can I can I can I develop skills that are going to help me in my profession?
100%. You can't give up. You gotta be almost like a sick dog. You gotta keep on it, man. When you want to, you gotta push that doubt down. Like you just gotta keep. And sometimes the hardest thing is the next step, but you just gotta take it. And sometimes that's the easiest thing to do, but it seems like a big thing, but you just keep going.
Yep.
I want to talk a little bit about not so much the elephant in the room, but one reason why uh, this interview is particularly pertinent, why this is particularly timely, and that is the signing of SPAL with Giuseppe Rossi for the second time now. So, can you tell us a little bit about the
Yes.
deal and how this came to be?
Yeah. I mean, Giuseppe was there already last year, so we had the relationship with Joe Tacopina, president of SPAL. Um, Unfortunately, he also had an injury last year, and it's been something he's had to battle with throughout his career. Um, but there's one thing I want to say, and Giuseppe is the best American-born soccer player. Okay, that there's no doubt about it.
Ever,
People,
in my
unfortunately, they
opinion.
have, yeah, they have, yeah. And listen, it might be someone that comes on and takes that bout from it. But right now, I mean, he's the only player that really was able to perform at the highest level, and what he's been able to do. And a lot of people don't know his story, and his story needs to be told. But I just wanted to make that, number one, that, he, with Villarreal, with Fiorentina, with Manchester United at a young age, was top. I mean, there was a time in La Liga, he was number three on the scoring leaderboard. behind Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, two players that I think the whole world knows, even if you're not following football. So this was an opportunity to go back to SPAL, and give back to SPAL, and also show that Giuseppe is here to help the team, and the team right now is in a relegation battle in Serie B, and no one wants to go down to Serie C. And I think Giuseppe adds that experience, aside from his ability on the field to be able to resolve a game in little time. So he last year scored 3 goals, but those 3 goals were very vital in getting 6 points for the team. That ended up being the saving grace for them to stay up in Serie B last year. So the idea with going back to SPAL was something that's already been in the works since last year. It was just unfortunate with the injury, like I said, that he had to rehab for. But he's back and he's ready to contribute to this team.
Yeah, I'm excited. He's been one of my favorite players to watch throughout his career, and being from New Jersey, he's pretty much anyone who grew up in our generation, he's an idol to them. And I believe very much, and I'll always say this in mixed company to friends and whoever, that he was the best Italian cap player of his generation. He was one of the last number 10s that Italy has seen in a very long time, and he was the top guy in that spot during his generation, which was like somewhere between 2006 and 2014, even 2016 if we go on a little bit more.
If Giuseppe is on the Italian national team, we don't miss the 2 World Cups.
Oof. There you go. And that's the truth, guys.
And that
That
and
that's
that's and that's the truth. If that was the trequartista, second striker, a guy that can make nothing, something out of nothing, and that
yeah.
was something that Italy desperately needed. So we also, I guess, as fans, had a big loss, within the Italian national team, because let's be honest, within the last 10 years, aside from the European Championship, we haven't been ourselves. And someone like Giuseppe Rossi would have changed that.
Yep. Guy hit a 15-minute hat trick against Juventus back in 2013. So exactly in that time frame that Peter and I are talking about, this guy was a giant killer and like pulling something out of nothing, like just inverted kicks. That's so much like a bicycle kick. I remember for Fiorentina distinctively one where I was like, no, this is a fuori classe. This is something different, Giuseppe. Because like he had been, as we're looking at some of these teams, right? He'd been all over. And this is rare to go from United, and then he was dominant, as a basically like a teenager for Parma, and then at Fiorentina, amazing years. Villarreal, like you said, third top goal scorer, only behind two of the greatest players to ever play the game. And Barca was looking at him, so he was like the man of those years at that time. I'm really hoping that he can do it again for SPAL and he can give them that extra boost. Right now, we see that De Rossi was just Sandorato, and now we have Aldo in. And with Nainggolan there, this is an interesting team. And I think if you are the casual fan, you're watching SPAL right now. So this is exciting. And I'm intrigued, and I really, really want this to happen. Not just for Giuseppe the player, but also for Giuseppe the guy, because he's a sweet, nice dude. Like he does the right thing. He's not out going for a glory contract. He's out fighting and trying to get a team up and to stay in Serie B. So it's like he's taking on a difficult journey right now. So that takes some grinta, some guts for sure of the player. And as we look at that, Peter, we could see that SPAL is not, even though they aren't 18th and 17 down will go into a Serie C, we see that Venezia, who is 15th, is just 3 points ahead of SPAL. So it's definitely not over yet, right?
Oh yeah, there's still a lot of games. I mean, from even I think 11th place, it's like a 7 point gap. So there's a lot of points to be had. Obviously, unfortunately, that Rossi was sacked. I think mostly because of results more than anything else, and this is a results business, right? And now we have Aldo, who did well in Serie C last year, bringing the team to the final. But he has a big job, and the most important thing is getting the results, getting those 3 points that are going to put you in a safety zone and a kind of safety net, so that way you stay in Serie B. Because, like I said, nobody wants to go down into Serie C. on a for business reasons, and obviously as a team on the sporting side. But there's no real TV contract compared to a Serie B and what you can get. So there's a lot of things that you definitely don't want to go down. And SPAL, I was there in Ferrara. It's a beautiful city in Emilia Romagna, and the fans are passionate like many other teams and or fan bases within Italy, and they want this team to stay up. And this was a team. Don't forget, Spal in the '60s. They often came second and third place behind La Grande Inter. So there's a lot of history there for a lot of maybe newer fans or people born in our generation. They're not going to really realize the
I didn't know
importance of
that.
Spal. Yeah.
It's awesome. And we're talking about Aldo, former World Cup winner in 2006, back up to Gianluca Zambrotta, and he knows what it takes. So we've got a cast of characters, and hopefully, keep our fingers crossed that they pull through. And with Giuseppe Rossi, of course, being a client, what is like the most important thing that players look for from you? And when you're advocating for your clients, what's the most emotional factor or thing that overrides anything in your I don't want to just say industry, but in your persona? It's like what's most important when it comes to taking care of these players?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very personal question, I guess, because in the sense that Giuseppe compared to maybe another player of mine, Giuseppe is a seasoned veteran where you might have another player that's just starting. So they're going to have very different needs, I guess, or different priorities. Where, a lot of times for the players, aside from the sporting side, you're also looking at, is this place going to be a good place for me to raise a family? Do I feel safe? Is it a new country? Is my family going to be able to, acclimate into this new society? So, aside from the sporting side, the personal side is very important, and believe it or not, influences a lot of decisions for a player that maybe we don't realize, but it plays a heavy role in everything. And then obviously you have, the different ideas when it comes to going to a team that has a good track record, going to a team that, for a younger player is going to be able to develop you, play you, and then be able to move on into a better league, or having a team that we know there's not going to be an interior turmoil, right? There's no, it doesn't change coaches every 6 games or so. So everything that comes into consideration. It's not always just what's the most money, you know. It also comes down to the overall project, and that's very important especially when you're dealing with the younger players. It's having the overall project outweigh just the most money. Because if it was just the most money, you go to Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah,
But is that a good project for a young player trying to develop? Maybe not.
no, definitely not. Putting that one in the banner. I like that. So the overall project outweighs just the money. And I think that's probably some
Yeah.
words of wisdom for anybody in many different facts of life, not just probably being an agent, but also in sometimes a job might seem great, but is it good for you? Is it good for further down the road? Like you said, your family. Is it a stable climate within that structure, within that organization? So it's very so. I've read a couple books, one or two, where they talk about and articles how players don't adjust, and I feel like it was Soccernomics where the players come in. You might
Mhm.
recruit a 19, 20-year old from Brazil, and all of a sudden they're in England and they're alone, or they have maybe their girlfriend. And it's like, why isn't this guy doing good? How come? Oh, because he's a teenager or his young 20s, and he's in a foreign land, doesn't speak the language, different climate, different weather pattern. Like everything is from the simple thing of like getting your food shopping done and who's going to be there to take, like you said, take care of the kids. So all these factors, it's a lot, man. And as an agent, it seems like you have your hands full.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, you said it best. I mean, a player coming from Brazil going to live in Scotland, it's a whole nother world. Yeah, and it really becomes overwhelming for a player, especially that young, a younger player, where they have to not just adjust to the teammates and a new team and a new way of playing, but also a whole new culture. So everybody is different. So there's people that no matter what, they're a chameleon, right? They can change all different colors and be able to adapt. But then you have the other ones that are not going to be able to do it.
There, it's words of wisdom there from Peter Curto. Anything you want to throw out for us, Peter, before we get going?
Make sure you follow Wayne in Rome. That's number one. If you would like to follow or learn more about Supra Soccer, the Instagram I see is below. And then obviously if anyone ever has a question, I try to answer a lot of people when I can. But if they want to send me a DM or LinkedIn, feel free to always reach out. And I try to give some advice. Um, I can't tell you all the tricks, but
Yeah.
more than like I said, a lot of successful people want to be able to help, and I think people in general want to be able to help. So don't be afraid to ask for help when you need to.
Thank you, Peter. And guys, maybe we'll see you soon too at Villa Bate in Brooklyn. Ciao. We'll talk soon.
That's it.
Thanks, Peter.
Ciao, ciao.